This video is going to be my reaction to the Lions' 40-34 win over the San Francisco 49ers on the road on Monday Night Football. Some would say it was a tougher than expected win, pushing their record now to 14-2, headed into obviously a huge collision with the Vikings at home in Week 18. The Lions scored 27 points in the second half tonight. Really did not get stopped once in their 10 possessions. They took a knee twice, once to end the second quarter, once to finish the game after the onside kick had gone out of bounds. Also had the failed 4th and goal from the 3-yard line late in the second quarter when they were trailing 21-13. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. I really did not like that decision, to be honest with you. Jared Goff on the night throws 3 touchdowns, had 304 yards passing. Jahmyr Gibbs generates 163 yards of total offense by himself. He also led a really stout rushing attack. Gibbs, Craig Reynolds, and Jamar Jefferson helped Detroit run for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. They've now won their second consecutive road game, 8-0 on the season, I believe, in 2024. Since that Week 15 loss at home to the Bills, the offense has really been on fire. You can really tell who is and who is not familiar with a team's storyline. In this case, happens to be the Detroit Lions, or the path that they're on this late in the season. And so I want to illustrate a couple of stories. I got some text messages from some coaching friends at halftime. I was like, is the Lions defense this bad? Like, I thought you told me these guys could play. And I knew in that moment immediately these are some friends of mine, so I wasn't going to be insulting or argumentative. But I knew they just hadn't watched Lions film to know that there were so many players out on defense. But that it actually kind of applies to the TV announcers too. I don't know if it got annoying to you at all. I understand if it did not, no problem. But to hear so much talk about the 49ers, what they were missing on offense from a talent perspective, yes, that's true. Those are true statements. But the Lions' defense was missing just as much. Nonetheless, Kirby Joseph on the defensive side made the 2 plays of the game, really. 2 critical interceptions in the second half. Somehow, the Lions' defense was able to hold San Francisco to only 1 touchdown for 29 minutes in the second half, up until the point when Josh Dobbs scrambles for a score. I think it was a 5-yard touchdown run with 43 seconds left in the fourth quarter. And then the onside kick goes out of bounds. But look, Detroit gave up 475 yards of offense, fell behind 14-6, 21-13, and 28-21, in fact. They eventually just reeled in San Francisco. I don't know about you. I thought that the 49ers defense pushed Detroit's offense more so in the first half than Detroit was able to push Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan's offense. I felt like things were more difficult. I think that's illustrated by the 4th down, the necessity to go for it on 4th down late in the second quarter, or the decision. And then, of course, it failed for the Lions. I actually thought San Francisco's defense was physical at times. They did miss a field goal late in the second quarter that could have extended their lead to 24-13. From that moment onward, the game, I don't want to say the game was over, but the competitive balance just switched. Goff was on fire. Ben Johnson had all the right calls in. I mean, it's really illustrated by the touchdown, the hook and lateral from St. Brown to Jamison Williams, who played his ass off. Here's what Detroit did in the third quarter. Here's their drives, I guess. 10 plays, 66 yards. This is the touchdown to Laporta, and then the 2-point conversion pass to a wide-open Tim Patrick that ties it at 21, midway through the third quarter, I believe. Then 6 plays, 31 yards, the field goal to get within 28-24. Unfortunately, the defense in the interim, between those 2 possessions, the defense had allowed the 49ers to essentially zip downfield. I think there's a 40-plus yard completion to Ricky Pearsall, who played extremely well tonight as a rookie wide receiver. That field goal was a 57-yarder by Jake Bates that closed Detroit to 28-24. And then Kirby Joseph nabbed an interception. He actually had 2 consecutive plays, but one was negated by a defensive pass interference penalty on Brian Branch that was pretty obvious, if you ask me. Joseph's second interception, or second in a row, I should say, is the first one that counted. That led to an 8-play, 43-yard drive, another touchdown, and Detroit takes their first lead of the game, 31-28, late in the third quarter. That third quarter explosion was the difference. Kirby Joseph's playmaking skills, his hands, I guess at this point, so many people refer to it as ball skills, whatever. That's the difference, because the 49ers offense had controlled Detroit for pretty much most of the game. They were utilizing run concepts with play action passes / boot in the opposite direction repeatedly. Some of it was tight ends running over concepts. Some of it was receivers running across the field opposite of the run flow. In one case, the fullback Juszczyk, who used to play for the Ravens, he scores on a 9-yard play action boot, and that made it 14-6 early in the second quarter. The 49ers at that point, and even throughout the first half, really getting whatever they want. They were executing whatever they wanted to. Brock Purdy for the evening ended up 3 touchdowns, 377 yards passing, but the interceptions were crucial, and in at least one case for him, a poor throw, and the second one may be a poor decision, but I think to a certain degree, Kirby Joseph kind of baited him, or at least reacted to a repeated play concept, a repetitive look that San Francisco showed to take advantage of his second interception. Ricky Pearsall, the rookie who Purdy was targeting in both of those picks, Pearsall led the 49ers with 8 catches, I think 140 plus, a lot of in-breaking routes, digs, deep in, over concept, maybe one too many, because Joseph seemed to read it on his second interception. This is in the fourth quarter, after Detroit had taken a 34-28 lead on another Jake Bates field goal. San Francisco had worked the ball down inside Lions territory. I think they're down like the 35 or 36 yard line. Same exact play concept they had run at least twice before, whereby it's a play action. Pearsall from the right-hand side, kind of a condensed or compressed tight split, runs a little bit of a deep in at 10 to 12, and this time Kirby jumps it. Maybe it's a little deeper than 12. Kirby jumped the in-breaking route. That was a momentum capper because it allowed Gibbs and the run game to get going. I think they ran the ball on 5 out of 6 plays. Gibbs basically finished it, essentially, with a 30-yard touchdown run on a 3rd and 3. I watched the game with a bunch of family members who have never really watched the Lions play, so it's kind of interesting. I'll have some comments or things that they said a little bit later on. But unfortunately, Bates missed the extra point after that touchdown, and those could have been critical missteps, along with the block from earlier, because the 49ers missed an extra point after their touchdown by Dobbs, which accounts for the final score, 40-34. Those are a couple of things I'm a little bit concerned about, although Bates was money from, I think, 57 and 52 at various points during the game. Joseph's first pick is the one that I think Brock Purdy deserves a lot of blame and probably criticism for. It's a 1st and 10 from midfield after the DPI on Branch. And once again, it's intended for Pearsall on the same exact route concept as the second pick. This throw just happens to be high. Now, it wasn't poor coverage, but it wasn't incredibly tight either, in my opinion. It's also possible that maybe Purdy had to elevate the throw to get it over a linebacker or something, but I don't think so. I don't remember seeing that from the replay that we showed. Nonetheless, Kirby Joseph picks off the high throw. At that point, that's his 8th interception, and that really changed the momentum drastically. The Lions offense in the second half overall, here's what Ben Johnson's group was able to do. In 6 possessions, 3 touchdowns, the 2 field goals, and then the kneel down by Goff in the final minute of the game after the onside kick from San Francisco's kicker just rocketed out of bounds. Really no chance for anyone to recover, let alone the 49ers. I thought Goff was in cruise control at times tonight. Now, early on, maybe the first 3 possessions, I did think that there was more pressure on Goff than there was on Purdy, meaning the defensive line actually getting to him. Those play-action boot concepts that the 49ers were using, to me, really wiped out any chance of pressuring Brock Purdy, whether it was a 1st and 10 play-action boot, a 2nd and 4, with the way the 49ers run game creates horizontal conflict, meaning the run concept goes, if you can, as the listener, if you can imagine yourself being a defender, the run concept goes to your right and the quarterback boots off to your left. Someone's got to account for him. Well, absent you as a defense just running someone directly at where Purdy will be if he keeps the ball, absent that happening, you're just really not going to get pressure on the quarterback. I thought Muhammad one time got pressure on him, and then it resulted in a sack. But lo and behold, they called a hold on him on the tight end Kittle that ended up being, a pretty good call. Goff had a great connection with Jameson Williams tonight. Jameson Williams, statistically, 5 catches for 77 yards and 1 touchdown. Well, I guess actually 2. How it works from a receiving standpoint for him, the hook and lateral, I don't know. But officially, what I have seen tonight is 7 catches on 8 targets. So that's impressive because it's efficient. He also had the jet sweep for a touchdown on the first drive. That play is really just a variation of the split back sweep play that Ben Johnson has used on 4th down or in goal line situations for the better part of 2+ seasons. He started using it, to my knowledge, perhaps even before this, but I remember it week 1 of 2002 against the Philadelphia Eagles. A sweep, I think it's DeAndre Swift for a touchdown to the left. They've utilized Jahmyr Gibbs on that concept, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and tonight it was Jameson Williams, but he didn't line up in the backfield. He kind of motioned across. He just basically replaced Jahmyr Gibbs as the sweeper. It's just another way to run the same concept in an area of the field or a situation, in this case, goal line, that makes it available, makes it make sense. Jameson Williams also had the hook and lateral touchdown from St. Brown. That one pulled Detroit to 14-13 in the first quarter. The extra point ends up being blocked. It's a sick play. We've all seen it before. It's fun for me sometimes to watch games with people who don't know a team, particularly the Lions or the Ravens. I watched it with family members on my wife's side, and they don't know the Lions at all, and it was fun to listen to them. Before the game, there was conversation about, well, the 49ers have been pretty good recently, and I was just very low-key. Yeah, they've been a good team. Or how come they only have 6 wins? Well, they've dealt with injuries this year. Oh, that's unfortunate. I said, well, the Lions defense is dealing with injuries too, so it kind of balances it out. Because I think, if memory serves, a lot of the 49ers injuries are on the offensive side. And a couple of people said, well, who do you think's going to win? I said, I don't do predictions, but I think Detroit's style of play is consistent, and they're going to generate offense and high percentage opportunities for the quarterback. It's going to be very difficult to stop them. If I had to bet money, which I don't do, I would bet on the Lions. And when they fell behind by scores of 7-0, 14-6, and 21-13, there was at least 2 people who pointed out to me, I think you jinxed them. And I said, no, this is the way that the Lions are built to survive and thrive. I said, and you're not aware of it because of you've only watched them play one time at this point, but their defense is operating at a deficit. They're playing uphill. On the other side, their offense is consistent, and they will execute. And Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson know they can rely on them. And sure enough, they were able to reel in the 49ers and get the win. One thing that was mentioned as well, and I share this with you guys. Hopefully it's entertaining to you. If it's not, if it's boring shit, feel free to let me know in the comment section or just stop listening. After the hook and lateral, the touchdown to Jameson Williams, multiple family members were like, oh, that's so exciting. That's so cool. And I said, they do this all the time, guys. Like, for me, this is kind of old hat. They've got multiple versions of trick plays that just happens to be a patented one. They actually faked a reverse, I thought, to a lineman in this game. It might have been Sewell. I could be wrong. It looked like a fake reverse to a lineman, and maybe it was a tight end, and I just saw it wrong. But another thing to note, after the hook and lateral touchdown, there was literally no excitement from Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. They were the most low energy, and that's saying something for them that I've ever witnessed or heard them during a broadcast. As an aside, Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta, they totaled 23 catches tonight on 30 targets. They got the bulk of the opportunities, rightfully so. That's, I think, encouraging moving forward with David Montgomery out at least for another week, if not more so. The rematch with the Vikings on the horizon. To see Laporta and Williams not just contribute so much, but do so from a high efficiency standpoint, I think that's encouraging. I want to talk about the first half some and the decision, the failed 4th down, the decision that Dan Campbell made. I disagree with it. 49ers are able to get out to a 21-13 lead at the half. I make notes at the half that are independent of my final analysis or summary that I kind of type up before I read it out. That's why it takes so long, because I want to make sure my thoughts are organized. I thought the Lions left points on the field there. Whether we agree with the 4th and 3 decision or not, I think there's a larger issue, and it's the 3rd and 5 call. That's the play call that I can't agree with. It's a run concept by Gibbs. I understand you as an offense are trying to get points on the board, You're also trying to use the clock. And if you're able to gain a first down there, I believe they were on the 5-yard line, 6-yard line. I could be wrong there. So maybe they were unable to gain a first down, but if memory serves, that was the dynamic. In any case, you need to double up to win at that point, being down 21-13. You would like to double up. Let me rephrase that, meaning score at the end of the second quarter and then get the ball in the third quarter and score again. When you open yourself up to not getting any points at all, that totally changes the dynamic, in my opinion, meaning the go for it on 4th and 3. It's an incomplete pass. Looks like a nice play by Renardo Green. Maybe Goff doesn't have a ton on the football. I don't know. I just didn't enjoy that decision at all. I felt like it opened you up to a 2-score deficit. And sure enough, San Francisco gets down there. Ultimately, they have a penalty, an offensive pass interference penalty, and then miss a longer field goals. Whether the 49ers were out of timeouts or not, and I think they actually did have one, in my opinion, the play call on third down is the one that makes the least amount of sense to me. I think you throw the ball, give yourself a chance to score on third down. I get it. I understand the philosophy. And at that point, Detroit's defense was not stopping the 49ers at all. So you think you need a touchdown. There's got to be a line somewhere for me. I think that's the line in this situation. I know the strategy. I know that people will say, well, that's who we are. You've got to modify it in certain moments. And I thought that was an opportunity to do so. Let's put it that way. I also understand that the strategy is to rely on your offense. Maybe in this game, stress them and see how they respond. I don't know about you. I don't need confirmation for how good Jared Goff is. I don't need confirmation for St. Brown, how talented he is. Gibbs, what he can produce. In any case, the 49ers are able to go down the field after that failed 4th down conversion in the second quarter and get a field goal opportunity. They targeted Jalen Reeves-Maybin. I did not think that he looked ready to go tonight. He was clearly being targeted by running backs, tight ends, play action concepts, multiple inside linebackers had trouble with. And the reality is Detroit's defense has had trouble with that dating back to the home loss to the Seattle Seahawks in 2022. I believe like week 3, week 4, somewhere around there. It's the game that if my memory is correct here, they lose 48-45 after being down 48-38 and scoring a late touchdown. The Lions defense had difficulty stopping a lot of concepts, but those play action boot concepts with a tight end or a fullback or a receiver running across in the opposite direction of the run flow, those have got to be handled better, in my opinion. I do want to talk about some halftime stuff, and I'll maybe digress here. I made the mistake of listening to halftime analysis, and I was just shocked. This is the second game in a row, I'm talking about the Ravens-Texans Christmas Day game, where I have just been kind of appalled by halftime analysis from former pro players. And in this case, it's Ryan Clark. He was making the point, this is all of your guys if you're the Lions. This is concerning. This is all of your guys. That's the phrase he used, all of your guys. Now, maybe he just meant on offense, perhaps. But it seems to lack not just nuance, but just any level of awareness. I think that the people I see analyzing the game on television are just completely unprepared. And Jason Kelce followed it up with a similar lack of awareness, in my opinion. You're welcome to let me know if I'm off base here or if you had a different impression. I'm not surprised by Ryan Clark, really. He's unprepared to comment on such a wide array of teams. It's probably unfair to ask some of these evaluators or some of these analysts to comment on so many different teams. They don't have familiarity with 1 or 2 or 3 teams. I almost feel like some of those guys would be better served in watching just one division every week. And so therefore have a better knowledge base to operate off of and avoid saying things like, you have all of your guys, when the Lions and the production crew for the broadcast tonight put up a graphic showing 8 Lions defensive players out in the third quarter. It was a little bit shocking to me, but so I sound like I'm taking up for them or creating some excuses or reasons to forgive them. But on the other side of the coin, they have to know their schedule months ahead of time, or at least weeks. And they have opportunity to prepare for what they're going to see from in this case, the Lions and the 49ers, or next week, the Lions and the Vikings. And so I have digressed here from analysis of this game. My apologies for that. But what struck me the most, and I didn't share this with you guys as Lions fans, was last week, the same thing occurred when the Ravens were playing at the Texans at halftime. That was a long halftime because of Beyonce's performance. But I listened to RG3, and I think it was Manti Te'o, if I mispronounce his name, my apologies, give essentially zero in-depth analysis, and the Mina Kimes was absolutely prepared, and in about 90 seconds gave more information from a historical standpoint, more observation about what was happening on the field during the game and how that lined up with patterns of behavior or data and statistics that she had awareness of. And the only thing my brain can think right now is 4 former players given opportunities at halftime to evaluate the game in an in-depth manner, at least swing for a double or a triple or a home run, and they did nothing. And one person who was prepared for the moment, in my observation at least, was Mina Kimes. Has nothing to do with this game, but it's something that sticks out in my brain when you have so many resources as an analyst and you work for these larger networks, that I think you should be able to offer fans, you, me, anyone, a better analysis than what they do, particularly at halftime. In any case, then they come back from a commercial and offer like 4 minutes in a row talking about next Saturday's games between the Ravens and Browns and then the Steelers and Bengals on Saturday night, instead of the game that we're tuned in to watch right now. That's why it bothered me so much. That's why I find it almost insulting. Yeah, I get it. You've got to advertise for next Saturday's games. It's Monday night. There's a shit ton of time between now and then to run commercials on television or the radio or the internet, whatever, and remind us that you've got 2 games coming up on your network that involve AFC North teams, neither one of which was playing tonight on Monday Night Football. Forgive me for that little digression, but it bothers me when people have so many resources available and don't develop anything with it. And the only person I've seen do anything with it in the last week, the games that I've observed, is Mina Kimes. In the first half, the teams combined for 471 yards of offense. Now, that included a combined 136 yards on the ground and 10 first downs in the run game. So there was a balance of offense. The run game was generating yards, being productive for both teams. And then Goff is 11 of 13. And Purdy was 14 of 16. So the 2 quarterbacks had combined for 4 total incompletions. Gibbs, clearly a focus of the offense. I love what they're doing with him, whether running the football with him directly or play action screens or utilizing him on third down pass concepts. He had 9 carries for 60 yards at the half. Jefferson also had a really nice run down near the goal line. He damn near got into the end zone. The Lions O-line, I thought, dealt with pressure generally by Bosa well in some cases, but Sewell got beat twice on pass rush opportunities. The 49ers were very physical on defense early, and Aaron Glenn's group really couldn't get anything done. They allowed Purdy, like I said, in the first half to go 14 of 16 passing. He had a really nice 3rd and 7 completion to Ricky Pearsall up the right sideline. It was a pick-rub concept with Terrion Arnold matched up against him. If you had CD3 he's played man for years in the NFL. He understands on third down you're going to see a lot of pick-rub concepts. It seems like he was able to navigate those things better than Terrion Arnold. If memory serves, it was Terrion Arnold who got picked and generated a huge play for Pearsall wide open down the right sideline. Purdy was able to just float it. It was the drive that accounted for San Francisco's 3rd touchdown to go up 21-13. I didn't think that the Lions had much of an answer to that point in terms of dealing with the 49ers offense. Joseph's 2 interceptions can be looked at as saving the day. It did seem like they played a better quality of defense in the second half. You're welcome to let me know if you think I'm off base there or off target. I thought that the Lions defense played with more effort. I would like to see, I think you may have to see more blitzes with Melifonwu and Branch. It's almost eerie to me how much it reminds me of not this period of time in the 2023 season, but maybe week 10, 11, I think, whereby Aaron Glenn started to utilize Melifonwu and Branch as blitzers more often. I think you may have to to look at similar options now, because otherwise I don't recall a single guy getting pressure. Muhammad, had the sack that was called back earlier in the game. Branch had the sack on the nickel blitz. Adams, I think it's Miles Adams, the D tackle that they had signed, who had been on the Seahawks team earlier in the year when they came to Detroit in that crazy early season matchup. He had a sack, so officially credited with 2 sacks overall from a team perspective. A third sack got wiped away because of the hold on Muhammad. You don't have a Nick Bosa, an Aiden Hutchinson available. Zadarius Smith, I don't know what was going on in there. How come he wasn't able to get any pressure at all? But nonetheless, the style of defense that Detroit is playing seemed to be of a better quality in the second half. In the first half, there really wasn't much they could get done at all. Yeah, I think that the 49ers were averaging 8 yards or maybe 7.8 yards per play through 30 minutes. Really alarming to see Joseph get those 2 interceptions. Was a relief for me, especially the second one, because I kind of knew that Ben Johnson was going to have the offense go into run the ball mode. And sure enough, Gibbs pops a 30-yard touchdown on the third down run play to make it 40-28, essentially sealing it. I don't know about you as a hardcore Lions fan. I still have 1 foot as an analyst and 1 foot as a Lions fan, because professionally that's what I was taught to do as a reporter in a previous employment opportunity. But I'm imagining that for Lions fans, that second pick was a great opportunity to feel like, okay, we're going to go into the matchup with the Vikings at 14-2. We don't have to worry about any discussion, criticism, analysis from some of the people I talked about earlier that was short-sighted. Hey, how come they go and lose to an injury-riddled 49ers team? Even Troy Aikman did so multiple times, bringing up how much San Francisco was missing on offense, to the exclusion, generally, of talking about how many Lions defensive guys were out, until the broadcast team almost forced them to address it by putting the graphic up. I'm not sure if you saw it, that showed how many Lions players are out on defense for right now and how many they currently have on IR. This is going to be a fun week for me. I've decided to try to get done with at least 2 previews for the Lions-Vikings rematch. The Ravens play the Browns, which is it's for the division on Saturday, meaning if the Ravens win, they clinch the division. So we're kind of forced to play Lamar Jackson. If the NFL schedule had come out in a different order, meaning Bengals Steelers as the 4:00 game, Ravens Browns as the night game on Saturday night, we could have had an opportunity to rest Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and some of our other players. The Detroit Lions will get no such option. They're going to have to play yet another game after having an early bye, and I think it's extremely important to try to win that game to give Aaron Glenn, the defensive side of the ball, the best opportunity to get a first-round bye and hopefully get some players back in the divisional round. Playing 3 weeks in a row with the first round being on the road is going to be tremendously difficult, in my opinion, for any team to get accomplished. But if there is one that can do it, I think it's this Lions team. Final point that I'll make here. As I said, I watched the game with family members who were somewhat critical of my perspective when Detroit was down 7-0, 14-6, and then 21-13. And then once they took a 40-28 lead, I didn't say anything, but a couple of family members came back in the room and said, "Hey, what's the score?" I said, "Well, the Lions are up 40-28." And they were like, "Wow, you really you know this team." And I was like, "Well, when you watch a group of people, 50, 55 players, well, probably more at this point, with how many have been out on IR and shuffling in new guys, you kind of get a sense of what they're able to accomplish as a group, collectively, what they're able to deal with and battle back from." And tonight's challenge, albeit Kyle Shanahan's a great coach, Brock Purdy was playing well, and they still had some weapons on offense, seems minuscule in some ways compared to what the Detroit Lions have had to deal with, facing so many injuries this year that for many teams, for many franchises, would have been insurmountable, but not this one, at least so far. Appreciate you guys' time, man. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. If you have any suggestions or ideas for ways to preview the Vikings-Lions matchup in Week 18, which will decide not only the division, but also home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs, please let me know in the comment section. And finally, if you think other Lions fans would enjoy this content, my reaction to their 40-34 win on Monday Night Football against the 49ers, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.